Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, as the leader of the opposition, I'm gonna oppose the motion that says this House prefers the strategy of pushing for institutional reform to address policy abuse and misconduct rather than defunding the police. So, as we have known, this motion is related to the Black Lives Matter movement, where the participants raises the idea to protest the police brutality or any kind of violence that is motivated by the racism against the black people. One thing that we have to notice here is this movement is not a war between the black people against the white people, but instead the movements when the participants are trying to raise the idea that the black lives or the black races matters as much as the other race do. The proof of this is the participants themselves. The participants of this movement is not only black people, but but also approximately as much white people included. This proves that this movement is not actually war against the black people and the white people, but instead the movement to raise this idea. Now, as the as the opposition side, we're gonna oppose the strategy of institutional reform and propose to defund the police. By defunding the police here, we mean to reallocating, not abolishing, some amount of funds that we used to allocate to the police institution to other government social agencies such as social services, housings, and educations, and many more. Now, our arguments set up will be rebuttals of why institutional reform is not actually that good and not enough for the problems in the status quo, and why defunding the police is a better solution. Now, one of the mechanisms offered by the affirmative is to make the recruitment of the police officers be equally and unsurely diverse. And you have to think about this to facilitate and to apply this further. You have to give quotas for races to since you have to give quotas for races to join or to be recruited to the police, since you want to ensure that all races here are equally included or equally recruited in the police. But this will only highlight the racist difference because you give quotas to black races, white races, and Asians, also Latinas. This will only highlight the racist difference and give tensions. Between the races who wants to join or who wants to be recruited in the police movements, because now it is limited for them to join in the police institutional due to their racism background. Race background. Now, one of the another naive arguments that the affirmative raised is not all policemen is guilty, and by that the solution have to be approached case by case. It is true that not all policemen is guilty, but since the statistics and data have proven that there are so many cases of power abuse committed by the police, and most of them are motivated by the hatred, by the racism, it justifies us to look at them in general as the institutional. And this indicates that the amount of cases indicates that there are a major problem happen within the institution that we should fix. The premise that the affirmative is trying to lead you to think about is that by reducing the amount of the police members and weaponries will increase the crime rates. But we have to get deeper into the case that the amount of criminal acts committed by the police is also very much, and most of them are committed by the white police to black people. We are not trying to highlight that the hatred or the conflict between the white and the black people, but instead the amount of funds, the facilitations that the police institution used to have actually facilitated the racist police to abuse the power they have, since there are so many. We actually have too much police. Either it's the weaponry or the amount of police placed in the public places. For example, you place so many police in housing that actually doesn't need that much police, and you also have placed police in schools that we don't actually need them, and because they're of their superiority, because they are divided into groups that contains much of them, it will make them sensitive to any small, even small sign of threats. That because of that they will execute these threats severely. So the affirmative is trying to make you think, to make you believe that the amount of police we have in the status quo is in the normal or in the middle amount, and by that reducing them will make the police spreads in the society be not enough, and that will increase the crime rates. But the actual case in the status quo is that we have too many police spreads, and by that, by reducing them, will not actually increase the crime rates that much, but instead we want to allocate the funds. We want to allocate the funds of these police institution to another side of the another focus on the government. And by reducing them, by reducing the police amounts, they can more focusedly aim at the organized criminals, as what the affirmative has explained. What about the domestic and minor offenses? We're gonna still put a security services. We're gonna still put policies to them, but not as much as it used to be, because in the status quo we have too many policies, too many policemen, and by reducing them, we're gonna make it just enough, not enough, and this will not that significantly reduce the security level of the society that we are at. And notice that institutional reform requires additional fund, because now we're gonna make an oversight body that will require another funds. We're also gonna spend monies on body cams, and this will only reduce and waste the total funds that the government have, that we can actually allocate to another government's social agencies. So this is the reason why the police is important, but they're actually just the mechanism to tackle the crimes the criminal activities that has been actually happened. Even though they are really useful to prevent the crimes that already happened to be worsened, but at the end of the day, the police is not the mechanism to stop the root cause or the root reason why crimes are actually committed by people. So the reason why crimes are committed is because there are some conflicts, there are some inequalities, there are some problems in our society that we have to fix. We lack social. These problems can happen when people lack social services, people lack education. For example, because they are poor, so that and they need money, they will do crime, they will commit crimes to fulfill their economical situation. Or for people who are lacking education, who are not educated enough, in this case, in the racism or the racial issue, it will make it easier for them, and it will not prevent them to do crimes that is motivated by their hatred for some race, or in this case racialisms. So by fixing this more, by allocating the funds that we used to give overly give to the police, we can instead allocate this to these cases to prevent them, to fix them, and by this we can actually reduce the chaos. We can actually prevent the chaos happening from the root cause. So that's all from us. We are proudly opposing. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.